Amazing. Wow. Episode 146. Yeah.
Great Owen
Amazing.
Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. 146.
Wow, episode 146. 146.
That's Hussein Nasreddine.
All right. Six.
And
That's
that's
me.
Saeed Jammal. There you go. And Ameer Asmar. Welcome back to the A2 show. Awesome.
hello.
Yeah, another weekend, another week of the Saeed Jammal show.
Back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Saeed, let's just jump into it. What's on your mind this week?
Well, Ali, after you've been constantly talking to me about this specific point, we have decided to, I guess, start a series of episodes talking about rebuilding Beirut in a way,
Let's see it.
specifically,
All right, let's check it.
specifically from a political sense of view. And I guess today's episode is going to start of implementing a new political system, starting with removing the current ruling class, and possibly deciding on how we would like to see Lebanon performing in the three main branches of government, which are the executive, legislative, and judiciary.
All right, that's a lot of words.
So yeah,
I don't understand, but here's
No.
the deal. Amir, me, and Hassan, we're all
No.
expats. I'll say we're all from Lebanon, but we don't live in Lebanon. And I don't know about
Yeah.
you guys, but for me at least, I don't live by Lebanon now by choice. I mean, if I could choose, I'd choose to live in Lebanon, but I can't. Right, for a lot of different reasons. It's stalling for my career. It's not safe. It's not secure right now, and if only there were fresh new ideas, maybe a country like Lebanon could be a greater place. So we're just gonna talk about different ideas, and maybe if someone can listen, we can make some kind of change. That's the bit of it. Sounds good. All righty. Saido, what was the first thing you were saying? So
all right. So I think the first thing we have to kind of decide on is what kind of government do we want here in Lebanon? Do we want to keep it as it is, a republic? Do we want to go maybe more socialist, like similar to European states? Maybe go full on democracy, free market, and so on, like in the US. So yeah, I guess that's something we can debate.
I see.
First of all,
That's cool. Again, this is all hypothetical, right? It's all like, hey, just might as well. The government's already trash, zero, garbage, right? Those guys, asshole jerks. Well, once they get out of there,
Yeah.
we're gonna need something new. So I don't know, Hassan, Amir, do you have any thoughts on like how? I know you guys think about this same way I do.
Ameer, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
All right. So I guess the biggest thing for me, when talking about reforming the government or instating any kind of change, it's like, all right, if you think about it, the current government in Lebanon, in the form it is now, really got solidified after the civil war, and they've worked a lot to kind of rig the system in their favor. There's financial secrecy on the central bank. The judges are basically paid off. Allegiance goes to party leaders and all this kind of stuff. So I think kind of for Lebanon, reforming it's like, let's say it was like a balloon with water in it, right? There's all these holes in it, and all the holes spill into buckets of the parties and this kind of stuff. I don't think, and the water in it is all the resources and the people and stuff like that. If you're gonna just put different people in it, like put orange juice instead of putting water, like the holes are still there, they're still leaking out. The system itself, the whole framework is primed for corruption. It's been rigged that way, and it hasn't been that way for a while. So I think what Saeed brought up, what kind of different type of government would be better for Lebanon. That any type of really fundamental systemic change for the type of government Lebanon has right now. It's like a parliamentary confessional republic, or I think be technical. But any type of actual change requires real systemic change to how the entire framework is, and that's what Saeed was talking about, different types of things. Means personally, I think for Lebanon, definitely, and there needs to be more democracy at a local level and at a higher level. But always the trouble with that is really people in Lebanon have been conditioned by years and years of war and trauma, and there's a lot of pain that comes with that, and it's really difficult to ask people to let go of all these allegiances, when realistically a lot of the political parties, especially within the working class, people that make local, they depend on them. They basically feeding them. They pay them money in order to to keep pledge their support and do these types of things. So it's kind of a big ask, to expect them to develop a political consciousness, when they don't have the real privilege to worry about politics, when they're more worried about how to get food the next day. I mean, wealth has been
Yes.
divided by 10 almost, you know.
Sorry to
So I
interrupt.
think, yeah, no, go ahead. I ramble a lot.
Yes.
No, now, yeah, obviously, like the situation isn't really open for the Lebanese people to be able to decide what kind of political system they'd want. But for instance, so Ali and Hussein, you both live in the US, and Ameer, you live in the UK. So I was thinking of
Next
it.
2 weeks, yeah.
So I was thinking for like experience in those countries, living in those countries, as a comparative kind of politics sense, how like the government that you have witnessed the work that they've done, and like the way they conduct and implement their laws and all of etc etc.
Sure.
Which one in your opinion would be more suitable to implement here in Lebanon?
I mean, the idea of a democracy makes sense to have, right? People can vote. That's not rigged. It's not having rigged elections, right? That's one thing, because I know in Lebanon they buy people out, and we don't really know.
Yeah, I mean,
how,
I was gonna say something. Right now, it's very profitable to be part of a sect. I think that's one of the things that need to be addressed, at least, yani, in the big institutions that are really open to the public eye, مثل هيك universities. You know, being in part of a sect shouldn't be profitable. Like, I know if you're part of the Lebanese forces and you're at LAU, you benefit a lot. If you're part of, I don't know which one it is for the Lebanese university as well. There's a lot of benefits to being to the.
What do you mean? What kind of benefits do you get if you're part of a?
I'm not sure Saeed may know this, but I know in LU, actually, Lebanese university, there's a specific sect that if you're part of, you get tuition discounts, bro.
Oh wow. Wow.
That's because usually, yeah, what he's saying is true, because what usually happens is the administration has people from that sect. So what they do is like they provide extra they provide favors.
I see. Wait, you said that's Lebanese university? Stop it! Stop it! Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so it's like things like that need to be stopped at institutions that those are open to the public. Other places that are too private, like between people, those might be harder to tackle. But if you address it on the bigger scale, definitely leave an impact. At least people realize, okay, it's not benefiting me too much to be part of a sect, right?
It's true.
Because people are motivated at the end of the day a lot by profit, and that's why they are part of sects. You'd be surprised when you speak to someone about, like, we talk about Hezbollah, right, and the people that support his regiment. And you talk to them, bro, half of them haven't even read his manifesto, right? They don't know what he's saying. They don't know what his mission is. They don't know why he's doing what he's doing. They just simply follow him because there's a profit motive. Oh, if I follow him, I could get a job in so and so place.
What is the motive here?
I'm getting energetic about this because I feel like it's an episode by itself.
So what is the motive here, Saeed?
Because right now we're starting on the basics and we're outreaching to a lot.
I see. We're branching out. I know. Uh-huh.
Not the same, it's like different timings, like when we go into details.
I see.
Especially the political parties.
And the political parties is their own, their own thing. But I see it not just in education and work. I mean, if you have a political party, you can work as like one of their thugs. They'll pay you to go around and beat people up. So I mean, it's a job better than not working. So people do it.
I'll tell you my opinion.
So
I think we should go to so compared to, for example, like maybe more European countries, I prefer socialism instead of whatever we currently
US.
have. And the US, I don't like. Okay, democracy.
What do you specifically mean by socialism?
Okay, so I do want. Okay, I do prefer that there be some sort of government intervention, but at the same time, they don't take over all of the private industries, and at the same. But the thing is, okay, so a lot of the public services that are being provided are basically monopolized and given to the private sector. For example, the electricity and the telecoms and whatever basically that we use,
all private.
the internet, all private. But the thing is, we have this thing where the government supports the private industry by making it a monopoly. They make everything a monopoly because it benefits them. So I do want to be a government intervention
like Haejl and stuff like that.
Exactly. Basically, whatever kind of contracts the government gives to private institutions, usually those private institutions are owned by politicians.
Yeah.
So
they're board members at the very least. Yeah.
Exactly. So I do want government intervention, but at the same time, I kind of want them to implement a law against monopolization. So that's
law
one
against
way.
monopolization. I mean, that's anti-capitalism.
So
monopolization, right? And if we're a capitalist country, we're supposed to be. Yeah, that's why it's totally wrong.
The debatable point.
For that,
I mean, just to kind of okay. So Saeed, in your view, it's kind of like just you want more government intervention in the economy, and that's what you mean by socialism. If I'm not basically, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, like there has to be more protection for the structure in itself, so that there isn't people taking control of the whole economy.
Okay, well, I would say kind of you mentioned European countries and stuff like that. Those are more social democracies. If we're talking about like socialism in general, it's at the end of the day, it's workers' control of the means of production. So if we want to talk about that, you have to kind of talk about the structures of how in contemporary countries like in Europe, like what the UK Labour Party and people like even like Bernie Sanders in the US are kind of pushing for this idea of socialism in the 21st century. So I think a big part of that has to do with encouraging alternative models of industry and alternative models of corporations to the classical capitalist model. And the idea of that is a worker co-op. So a cooperative, basically owned by the workers. A good example of this, for the biggest example really in the world, is the Mondragon Corporation. It's in the north of Spain, one of the largest companies in Spain, the top 10 largest companies in Spain. How it works is it's a bunch of different industries a larger cooperative, and some of them make like industrial stuff that some of them make electronic stuff that's sold to Microsoft and stuff. Some of them have supermarkets and things like that. And basically, you buy your way in, you pay a certain amount, and now you're a part owner of the company. People are paid out in ratios. Like the highest paid worker gets paid at most like a 9-to-1 ratio to the lowest paid worker, and each person has one vote. So as opposed to the regular capitalist structure of a business where the board of directors really make all the decisions for you, it's more of a democratic process. You have democracy in the workplace, and profits are shared amongst everyone. So in tough times, what they do is instead of firing everyone to save profits, what they'll do is they'll democratically decide on wage cuts in order to keep people in their job.
I see.
And if one place is if one place a part of the company is profitable and another isn't, they'll move workers. Like, let's say we don't need you here, you're an engineer at this place, we'll move you here. It's all within the co-op.
Is that managed privately, or is it managed by the government? Is it managed privately or by the government?
It's
managed by the people.
well, it's regulated obviously because they work within Spain, but it's managed. It's workers self-owned. It's not fully worker self-managed. But the idea is it's more democratic and the payout ratios aren't like, let's say in the US where CEOs get paid 300 plus times what the lowest paid worker is. Here it's more equal, and there's more say in what people have. And just to bring up something that I think you're talking, Saeed, you brought up government intervention, stuff like that. I'll point you to a program that's I think in Italy. It's called the Marcora program. So this is an unemployment program that basically tells you, okay, you can get your unemployment benefits month by month, and we'll keep paying it to you, or you could unite with 9 other unemployed workers and get, I think at one point it was 3 years worth of your unemployment benefits at once in order to fund your new worker-owned enterprise. So what does that do? It allows you to create an enterprise, and the government basically subsidizes it. I think they reduced it to 1 year.
Sure.
Funnily enough, they reduced it 1 year because they instead of 3 years, because there was a European anti-competitive law that said that this might outcompete regular enterprise. So you have to reduce it to 1 year, which I'm not a fan of.
That's pretty cool. I mean,
that model is better.
I think it's
the
pretty cool
question
model.
is, sorry, just to put in one last thing. The question is, Lebanon obviously does not have the capital to do these kinds of things, but how could you push for more equitable and participatory frameworks within Lebanon? If we're talking about socialism being a thing, those are just kind of like the contemporary ideas. So that's all I want to say.
Are, in my opinion, very useful for the Lebanese people, because as we know, being Lebanese.
Do you want to do that, boss? George drops in. Carry on.
Right. Okay, so what I want to say is, like, so you guys all know, since being Lebanese yourselves, like one of the best products that Lebanon produces is the people itself.
That's how popping in. There you go.
Sorry for being late, boys. I had to get a haircut, and there was a guy that took forever. Thank you very much. So,
yes, perfect. Let's continue.
What were we talking about?
Saeed was taking it forward.
Let's interrupt Saeed one more time.
Now Paco joins out of nowhere. So
where is Paco?
He has a headache.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Saeed.
Yes, do your thing.
The thing that you mentioned, that, for example, in Italy, this basically encourages a lot of entrepreneurs to be and innovative people to start something, start their startups, projects, whatever they have, and work on them. So the reason why I mentioned government intervention, because usually the government is, like you said, subsidizes these kind of startups. So although we dislike Israel, they are actually very good at that. They
We dislike who?
Israel.
Who?
Yeah,
I think you're cutting, by the way.
The Zionist entity, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the Zionist movement that occupied the Arab lands and the world is turning a blind eye to? Oh, them. I see. Okay. Yeah, what about them?
Continue,
have money.
Basically, yeah, they support their any kind of startups and innovative ideas, and they're known for being very tech savvy, and especially in Tel Aviv. And I feel like something like that would help Lebanon a lot, because on an independent side, without the government's help, we have these ideas already exist. We have these groups that already exist. For example, in Tripoli, they have this network where they also have startups, and there's also, I think, there's obviously in Beirut, and then I think in the south. So we have these ideas that already exist. They just need support from the government. So if the government intervened and supported these kind of things, and
what government? Here's the thing, Saeed. What money? What money? What government?
What
all these
money,
things,
what
right?
government?
I think that makes sense. That like it would be real cool because there's a lot of work to do. It's just that
exactly. We have a lot of smart people. We have a lot of smart people in Lebanon. The problem is they're leaving because no one is allowing them to explore
Use
the
their
full
smartness.
use of their intelligence and implement their work. The thing is, we never did have a deficit of
but
money.
it's not always, like those. You think those political leaders are very smart themselves? They have a lot of people that they sponsor and they subsidize for them to lead out their businesses and their investments on those private companies, right? They're not in charge of it. They're not smart enough to fucking handle that, bro. You think Aoun can handle Ojero?
Aoun can barely stand up straight.
Yes.
Let alone deal with the business. You guys, is it weird that I still laugh at the video of him falling down in that Arab conference thing?
No.
The absurdity of these types of people actually having power is just a reflection of the contradictions of the system reaching a breaking point to where you have this kind of like clownery, this kind of like theater, and these people that are just completely specters. They're ghouls. They don't have any substantive thing. They just depend on like blind support and all these kinds of things.
Yes, and they stole everyone's money.
Symptoms.
They stole everyone's money.
Yes, they stole everyone.
What?
People
and got away with it.
Because in Lebanon, they'll always hold it over your head. They'll always, the first thing they'll do, we're strong. We can move past this. We can move past this. We can do this. We can do that. You have to keep going. People like in the civil war. Okay, it's over. It's over. Just like go back to your regular business. Open up your businesses, and the person that was trying to shoot you the other day is now chill all of a sudden.
Yeah, now he's hanging out in your coffee shop.
And there's this idea of you have to stay normal. You have to keep on moving. Don't think too much because we don't want you to be conscious. We don't want you to understand how we're robbing you and all these different kinds of things. I mean, and young people in Lebanon, being great examples of it. They're aware of these things, but the question is, it's still pushing against the brick wall because people have, a lot of blood and a lot of trauma and history tied to it, intergenerational trauma, all these different kinds of things. So it's a complex issue, and you can't really just impose that this thing. I think it has to be gradual, but I think definitely everything ties back to economics and the material conditions that are around you. You can't ignore that. If we're talking about reform, we have to talk about what happens to people on a daily basis. You have to talk about what solution are you giving if you're saying, all right, stop supporting your political parties, but these people are feeding me. These people are doing this and that. how's that void going to be filled? What alternative are you giving? Because it's very privileged thing to say, and these people, you're just support your sheep and you're supporting this or that. Like you have to work politically and you have to create some sort of
alternative,
a movement that builds consciousness about the conditions that are around you, and something to push people forward.
Okay,
and
so
I think that's not talked about as much. It's just like yelling and all this sucks. What more news do you want? You know it sucks. It's oppressive.
Like
like
the yelling is a symptom of the fact that they're cornered
like,
as well, right? Very much cornered. People, right? They want an alternative, but they don't know how to get there, and it's actually such a tricky situation, and the resources are limited, or all the any external intervention come in GA to like harvest and scavenge whatever the fuck resources are left.
Pretty much.
So there's nothing for the people to do
other there's an alternative.
What's your alternative? What's your alternative?
You guys are the alternative.
Yeah.
No joke.
You guys on the A2 show. Yeah.
You guys are the alternative.
Yes.
Let me explain.
No, you're right, man.
Go for it.
Give me a second. Here we go. I'm not Lebanese. I come to Lebanon like twice a year, and that's about it. I spend a week and I'm out, right? But from what I see, here's what the alternative is. You need political parties that are more to do with what is the future of Lebanon and less to do with who's my backup, who's my squad, who's my homies, who's my gang, who's my leader. You guys don't need that right now. You don't need a religious war. You don't need another holy civil war. You don't need any of that, dude. Khas, like I got bored and I'm not Lebanese.
Dude, I mean, it's not just bored, dude. People are dying and
it's
starving.
It's that's as somebody, as somebody is not. It's very easy to say that,
Yeah, but I know people are dying. I'm with you. I know it's like insensitive for me to say, but
I understand. No, and I agree with you. I don't think any rational person would disagree with what you're saying. But you have to in sort of the conditions that were in Lebanon, a lot of bloodshed and stuff like that. People stick to a collective. I think a really interesting thing I saw happen in the aftermath of the explosion. And Saeed, maybe you can give me a little bit more insight on this because you're in Lebanon on the ground, me being an expat overseas. But I would love to hear input on this. What I noticed, a lot of things happen in sort of when a vacuum is there. So when the explosion happened, this huge damage, horrible loss of life and destruction of homes and all these kinds of things, the government didn't really act nearly as fast as they should have. So people took it in their own hands to go down the streets, create networks of aid, through social media or whatever it is, and they took their own initiative to go and clean the streets. And the thing that Lebanon has is the Lebanon, as opposed to a lot of other more individualistic societies, does have frameworks in people's minds of collective work, but that's usually restrained to my sect. I'm Sunni, I'm Shia, I'm Maronite, I'm Orthodox, I'm this, I'm that. But during times of crisis, they're able to extend that sense of collective work and sense of working for the collective to other sects. And that's, I think, what I saw, what I observed happened in the aftermath of the explosion. They were able to extend that collective thinking into other groups and able to empathize. So I think. Lebanon definitely does have community consciousness and that kind of thing. But only I'm from Tariq Jdide, these people are my people. I'm from Sabra, I'm from Dahiya, I'm from this and that. I'm this sect, I'm that sect. So that's something I think you could build on. So Saeed, I mean, you were there. Maybe you can enlighten me a little bit about what was happening on the ground.
Okay, so from what I saw is like you were saying, there's a lot of people, starting up funds, whether in Lebanon or abroad, people like all over the streets of Jamaize and Ashrafiyya, going around helping whoever has damages in their homes, trying to help them however possible. But even till now, you still find people's homes still damaged, and they haven't found proper repairs because they can't afford it, or the government isn't providing it, or it's hard, especially with the inflation.
I just
And
want to say, you mentioned that
yeah.
the Lebanon has this community consciousness that it arose during a disaster type, and this would be like a solution to many of the problems, and if they can keep on going with that in other aspects. But how do you promote it? How do you get it? You don't want another explosion to happen for people to come together. You want it to keep on happening. So how would you address that? I think is very important.
I mean, we're all here
from
from different backgrounds, all of
from
us.
what I
But
see-
how do you do it?
Single
How do you
different.
consistently
That's
do
true.
it
Mhm.
on
I think
on the scale of society?
I might have an idea. I might actually have an idea. My idea is everyone needs to just leave the past to be the past and stop holding grudges, maybe. Because end of the day, like you guys are all united. Like here, I have the most
Okay,
diverse.
but how do you
How do you do that, Ali?
Ali,
Hold on
if
to
you
your
have-
fathers and their fathers' beliefs. Move forward. I mean, that's how people in Kuwait did it. There was a time, believe it or not, where it was very sectarian in Kuwait, very sectarian.
I mean,
But
Yeah,
you find
but how much it's not.
was there
sectarian
bloodshed
now?
during that
Okay,
sectarian?
they're
there
very welcome
was.
into Kuwaitis.
Really?
There was, dude.
I know.
It's just that
Oh.
back
I get-
then in Kuwait was still like in the middle of the desert in the
Yeah.
60s. And like, dude, my dad had a TV when he was like 30.
I
No,
think
but like Ali,
Get rid of
what
TVs.
Hussein was saying.
Is that your solution?
No, it's not that. I'm just saying. It's
Abbas,
it's not
you
well,
wanted to say something? Yeah, what Hussein
Abbas,
was
I wanna hear what
saying is
Abbas
that
has to say.
no, what Hussein was saying is that it's not as easy as to forget the bloodshed and the things that happened in the past. It will happen, but as Hussein said, gradually. I mean, even it's been recent. It hasn't been that long. Like I have aunts that have been killed by their Hawiyya. My aunts. All of our parents went
Yeah.
through that.
Our parents. Are
I'm not
traumatized. They
holding
went through
personally
whole
a grudge. I
generation
don't
war.
care because it's not that I don't care, but I can heal from that, But my dad can't, and that's a generation that's still in power today. We as the younger
Wait for them to
generation.
die.
Just need to
No,
wait,
I'm
I
not saying
guess.
that. But it's not as easy. Like I can't tell my father or anyone's father who lost a person to forget about that. He's gonna be like, "You're crazy. You don't care about family. Go get out." It's really hard, It's difficult.
Look, but this
That's a
generation
fair statement.
change, to be honest. So if you look at, for example, the recent election, the what's called student body elections in LAU. So usually they would be dominated by the Lebanese forces. This year, for the first time ever, and especially in the Beirut campus and the Byblos campus, all of the independent candidates won their spots.
Wow, all of them.
That's a big indication. Yeah, that's a big.
I mean, it's the youth, right? They know what's up.
The
They're coming
future is
together.
bright. The future, just like that. This is enough for me to say the Lebanese future is bright. As long as we have people like whoever we have here today,
Yeah.
the future is bright.
Yes.
Because
They
let's
want-
be honest, listen, as much as we love our parents, as much as we love them, no one lives forever, right? There will come a time where they will have to, meet their lords and we will have to take their positions. So do we want to
true.
continue in the way they've been going? Or do we want to make a change that's better, brighter, and more prosperous for the future of Lebanon? What is it that we want?
But to be honest with you, man, I mean, the thing is that all of this is kind of like just, and not to really discount what you're saying, because I do appreciate the sentiment, I do understand it, but it's not, you can't expect people like Abbas said to just drop all of these things at the drop of a dime and things like that. I think a better framework to work off of is explaining to them how their lives could be improved in a concrete way, and starting at the scale of the community, starting at that smallest scale. Politics doesn't happen in the parliament. Politics doesn't happen with people in suits making decisions. Politics is what happens on the ground. Politics is done through activism. It's not restricted to one sphere, which is the parliament and government. The real politics is on the ground. The real politics, the real things that are happening are on the ground. And in a lot of cases, man, literally just ignoring the government, which is what the Lebanese people did in the aftermath of the explosion. They did things for themselves. You doing depending on the government is not going to really give you the great outcomes, because that's what has been happening. Complacency. They've rigged the system to allow them to do these types of things. So I don't think putting in new people or doing any of these things is really going to make a difference. The real difference is how you talk to me, a Shia person from the south of Lebanon, me, a Sunni person from Beirut, a Maronite person from Mount Lebanon, a Jewish person from there, trying to kind of like break all these identities and say now you have to be good with everyone. I don't think is a good framework to work off of. A better framework is to build a political movement within the system and have tangible goals, have tangible things that you want to work on, and a
All those
tangible
exist already,
platform.
though?
They do,
They
but
discuss
they're not. كلهم يعني كلهم. Everyone is means everyone. And
No, I
then
mean, like, there are
they'll
political
stop.
parties in Lebanon that are fully registered, but that aren't affiliated with the
There are,
ruling class that we
but
know.
very weakly.
But they don't have any power. No one seems to support them.
Yeah,
So the political movement
exactly.
exists, but it still lacks the power, Yani.
Yeah, but I
I'm
guess
asking,
just
like,
to,
how would
just
you
to,
give it more power?
How would you give it more power? More
I'll tell you, it's through activism, through people, actually a coalition of the young, coalition of the old, to really push for change. You can't to break this idea of oh, I'm gonna depend on the electoral process to get me the outcomes that I want. I'm gonna depend on XYZ politician to get what I want. A lot of things can happen through mutual aid, which
in
is
your own hands.
Mutual transactions with benefits to both parties, and that's what happened in the aftermath of the explosion. I will help you with this. I'm providing psychological assistance. I'm providing this, and that, and building that type of consciousness of your power as an individual within the framework of
So I have
the
a
collective
suggestion now.
is really important. Yeah.
You're making me think about something, and the idea is, what if they make some, the people come together, they build those corporations, wait for him to get back.
Wait for him to get back.
Sorry, I was just getting water. I'm listening.
Yeah, I'm just saying, suppose the political movement, the one that already exists, or a new one that could exist, suppose they start building small corporations, right, and in different locations across Lebanon, Yani. And those corporations, what their intention is to do is to provide, like you said, services for everyone, right? And in cooperation with those people that provide the services, they can possibly maybe fund the political movement itself so that it could be stronger and so that it could help other people, right? Would you say that's a possibility?
Sure. Definitely. I mean, you've seen it across time. I mean,
there's a lot of work to do, and
people
will pay for people to help them. Honestly, at this point, right? There's a lot of work to be done.
It's just,
and there are people that aren't working.
Yeah.
So what's happening? You have all this work that needs to be done, and you have all these people that aren't working. There's got to be a way to put them to work.
Yeah. I to go off of Ameer's point to kind of answer his question. I I think definitely there needs to be, first of all, this movement would have to be really horizontal, in the sense that you concentrating power upwards in a vertical fashion, especially in times of crisis when things can't be blocked by bureaucracy and hierarchy, is important. Breaking that mold of like, we need like a leader, we need some figurehead that has their own cult of personality, like pretty much every political leader in Lebanon, with huge posters
Band
plastered
posters.
across
Oh god.
buildings and this kinds of things.
And Jad.
You need to
Yeah.
you need to break that, through action, not break that through political speech and stuff like that. A thing is like, is interesting. I lived in Tariq Jdid, right next to Sabra, when there was something called the Ta'niyat Sabra, right? And it's Ta'niyat is a co-op. That used to be a cooperative supermarket. It used to be, you pay a certain fee and you get low prices on things like that. Then it got bought out by a private company and stopped being cooperative. When you see the kind of movement towards more hierarchical and models, both in the economic sector and the political sector, um, you're not going to get the outcomes that the community wants, in a sense. So I think I brought up the co-op and Sabra for a reason, because that's the tangible example I have in my mind of something that used to be a cooperative model, but then got pushed to something else. And I think a big part of making any of these types of changes is, like I said, horizontal, democratic, and small. Don't work. I think the future is really at the municipal level, especially in countries like Lebanon, with high amounts of communities that are very segregated by sect. You literally have a street that's dividing the Shia area from the Sunni area, and the Christian area from the Sunni area, and all of this kind of
Sorry.
stuff. So I think working within the frameworks of communities, doing community food drives, doing community
Services.
activities, things like mental health services, all these types of things
Sorry.
really help to build solidarity among people, and really help build this community-centered approach. And there's organizations already doing this in Lebanon. I saw that one that I follow, and I kind of had a little fundraising campaign for, was Feed the Need. That was a good one. That is really a grassroots organization, giving tangible food, clothes, all these types of things to the people that really need it. That can be framed within a larger political movement. There could be these types of mutual aid collectives in a network managed democratically, with participation from the people on the ground to understand people's needs and get them get them, filled, get those needs filled. Because you can't expect somebody to do high level political organizing and pushing for people if they don't have their basic necessities.
I see.
You can't, you have to start and addressing the material conditions of people where they arise at the place that they are, and within the framework of a larger movement, because they're gonna identify with the movement that has replaced the political party that's feeding them. They're gonna identify with that movement better, and they're able to work community by community within that framework and develop it into a real political movement on the ground. Wow. Screw the parliament. Screw what all these people are talking about. They're all thieves. Real politics happens on the ground.
Bro, strangely enough, right? Like those corrupt political leaders, bro, that's exactly what they do, but like on a more like devious end of the spectrum, right? They invest, they manipulate the economics of the market to suit their needs, to suit their mission, right? That's exactly what they do. And yeah, sure, they have already like they've already rooted themselves in the system and they're already strong enough, but that doesn't mean there isn't opportunity for other political movements to grow. And I agree, it can be through organizations. Basically, Ali, this made me think we just need a big SLO, right?
Big one big SLO. We just need a way to connect, as you were saying, all these different organizations into one more
Student like
cohesive
organization.
movement, right? With a common
I
mission,
love
maybe.
I think
That's it.
we've reached a timestamp here, Ali. Did you? I'm not sure.
We started a bit late, but if you want to
Did?
cut it off now, you can do as you
I
like.
mean, no, we can push forward a bit
Yeah.
more.
Saeed, is there anything else you wanted to address before we wrapped
Yeah.
up with this one?
A
I know
lot.
we talked about a lot, and there's much more talking to come. But I just wanted the first one just to get the gears going.
Pretty much.
Yes. What would you like to address more in the next time?
I guess we could stay a bit more on point, but the thing is, Hussein did mention something that was on point right now that is also debated in current time, like currently in Lebanon, which is federalism. Like you mentioned, the communities and the municipalities, how they should probably be more in charge and stuff like that. I agree, and at the same time, I disagree, because the reason why I disagree is because if you give more power to basically the current communities, okay, they'll probably take care of their areas more, but they will somehow find a way to separate themselves from the country. So so it will become basically the south and the north, Beirut and the mount and the So
It's
I don't
already
know
like
if it
that though, really, honestly.
it's already like that, but you would legally also cut the country up.
Not necessarily. I mean, you have different states in the U.S.
Yeah, you have different states in the US, but it's diverse in the US. While here in Lebanon, it's the people from
Bisect.
Ba'a are from Ba'a. The people living in Beirut are usually from Beirut. People from the Jnub.
I would say you need more like authority, like an expression of authority for you to be able to like legally separate as well. It's not just an economic thing. Having like strong economic development as an area together, right? It's not the same thing as having a collective authority that wants to split from the bigger picture. You get me? It's not. يعني مثلا in the south of Lebanon, they have the authority of like, you know, the militia there, so they could do that potentially if they had they probably do have the economic means for it.
You mean as a completely become a country by itself?
And more independent.
Yeah, I know. They wouldn't do that, but the thing is, like, on a cultural basis, and the way they would conduct themselves would be on that premises. They would just be like, okay, we don't really.
You mean like the system would reorganize itself based on like geographical preferences?
Yes.
I think it's also important to think federal or as opposed to confederal. You know, so federal means, you know, states within a federation, a larger a country. I mean, federal is like the U.S. basically. States can enact laws, but there's also federal laws that supersede them and apply to all states. You could also have confederal, which basically means power is held at the state level and laws are made at the state level. And federal, it's not really a federal government. States have their own individual power. But at any rate, we can get into the debates on these or that. It's going to be segregated, this and everything. But yeah, if you would want to have something like that, you'd have to talk about how interaction would happen. And I think a big part of that is democracy. Allowing people to have more say in what happens, and allowing open movement between areas is also important. But you know, these types of things really take a lot of work on a community level, and really you can't expect people that have lived their whole lives competing, like, I need to do this or else this person is going to do that. I need a wasta, which is basically like
nepotism.
You get somebody to speak on your behalf and plug you into a job. Nepotism, basically. These kinds of things. You know, you need to break down these types of things before you would really need to have any type of change, because if you're gonna expect people to kind of okay, this is the new system. Now work how I wanted you to work in the utopia I made in my head, and yeah, completely throw away all the ways that you've thought that you've thought your whole life, and you've been conditioned your whole life. People are conditioned a certain way. They're conditioned to be extremely competitive. They're conditioned in scarce resources, scarce places. We have to keep competing for it. They don't collaborate as much. So, like I said, it really has to start with building a sense of community through the mutual aid stuff I was talking about, network stuff like that, addressing people's
psychological
problems
revolution.
psychological revolution before you have any type of other other revolution, and that starts, I think, with democracy, not just being limited to the political sphere, but also in your daily life, because you spend most of your time at work, you spend most of your time at home and stuff like that. So allowing people to understand democracy on a first-hand basis, and not just me putting my vote in every once in a while and expecting some sort of change, allows you to become a better citizen. And I think that's where the importance of the worker co-op model I was talking about comes in, because it allows people to understand democracy and understand the political process on a more one-to-one level. And there's studies that show that people that work in co-ops are more engaged in the communities. They're more engaged in active political life. They understand these types of things because they have first-hand experience of it. It's not just a theater where you put in a vote once in a while and expect some sort of change.
You have control.
I'm rambling.
No, but you have control. That's the thing. You need
Saeed,
to take
I
these
have
things in
a
your own
question
hands.
for you. You mentioned in LAU they had the independent, they won their seats, right?
Yeah, they were 3 seats last year. They became 14 seats this year.
Oof.
One of them
How
was
is it at
actually
AUB though?
At AUB, the elections haven't been held yet, so I don't know.
Oh, but how is it like generally?
Okay, so last year actually it did change a bit more to the secular side. They did win more seats than usual, and the year before that, most of the time it's usually the Tmene Adar, so the Shiites coalition, and in some what's it called, faculties, the 14 would win, the Sunni and whatever other Christian groups that join them coalition, they win in some specific faculties, but the majority would be the Shiites. Last year, no, the seculars made a major improvement, and I think out of all of the major chairs for the so there's the USFCs, and then there's like the SRCs. Most of the USFCs were for, I think, the secular and the Shiites tied with. I'm not 100% sure. I forgot because I wasn't focusing on on the elections last year, but I remember that the secular improved greatly. So I don't know this year how it will be.
I mean, it'll probably follow the other trends.
They have to.
It'll be a big, be great, because I mean, LEU by itself, if it shifted this drastically.
What does it mean that it made this shift? How does that affect?
Well, honestly, if you're looking at previous elections, AUB would be the only one that has diverse results. While LEU would be dominated by, for example, Lebanese forces, and other universities, they don't really have elections like LEU and AUB. So the fact that LEU now has a lot of independents that won means that the younger generations are changing their minds. The 50-50s, the people who would vote or not vote previously are now changing their minds and now actually going away from political parties. So when Ali previously mentioned how there was they had bloodshed in their country, and then eventually everyone just changed their opinions on being with political parties, I feel like Lebanon is going in that direction.
How are they promoting it at AUB, for instance? How are they getting more people to join their secular parties?
Okay, so
for instance, you're at AUB, you would know.
Well, I graduated. I don't see it anymore.
It's basically
come again.
I graduated in spring, and to be honest, because I was mainly, thanks, man. So, and mainly because I was affiliated, I couldn't be politically involved, although like whatever, I talk a lot about it and I debate a lot about it.
Yeah.
So I didn't really
That's
follow up on them,
political
but they,
knowledge, man. Don't discount that. Sorry.
yeah. So like on campus, everyone their campaigns and talk about it and basically and physically promote it, by talking to people. Now with Corona, I have no idea how they're gonna do it this year. Like I haven't really checked up on anyone who has a campaign coming up this year and like how are they trying to promote it. But usually they have social media platforms and they talk about it publicly. Okay, so actually I know Abbas has experience in this, and what they do is they call up people that they think would vote.
Abbas, you call people, you're like, hello.
No, I know that they
شو
have like this
سمعتك
huge
ما بدك
list.
تصوت secular ولا
Yeah. They call up everybody. شو بشتري لك سندويشة. I'll buy you a sandwich دجاج مع extra tune.
No.
Hey, tomorrow.
Voter fraud. No.
Yeah, we don't endorse
We don't
that.
endorse
No,
that.
actually,
No.
Abbas, I'd actually love to hear like some personal stories about that.
We can do that in another time, boys. We actually hit our timestamp
Okay.
now. We
That's
can't
true.
go any further than
This is
that.
true. We've
Anyways,
been-
All right.
Yes, let's have up here. We'll keep this conversation going. If you hope
going.
listen,
Yeah,
hopefully
it's not the
something
last
came
time
out of
we'll
this.
have you.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not. It's also not the first.
There's
time
much
for
more
all
sides.
of
There's
you.
much more to talk about. Yes.
Bro, the topics that were just open
There's
now
a lot
that
to talk about with Lebanon.
Zen,
Hey,
keep
a
that
lot.
up for the next time.
We
All
will.
we want
Anyways,
to hear the intelligence. Abbas's intelligence. We want to hear about his what's it called, database and of calling people and stuff like that.
we'll do that.
Well, I think only
expect
only
that.
Hussein here genuinely has like political well, you as well, I would say. The rest of us are like fucking way off in our
Yeah, it's true.
feelings.
Well, here, if you guys are just part of the episode, please do like and subscribe.
Like, subscribe, share. Come on, watch it. Check it out.
Like,
Tell 'em about some
subscribe,
stuff.
share.
Yeah.
Give it to all your
Post it
friends.
on
Big red
Facebook.
button.
Into the show.
Yeah.
Let's get
Wow.
this ready rolling. Let's start them. I think I want to make a new motto for the show. The new motto is brace yourselves for the future movement. Right? As we are the future
Yeah.
boys. This is usually how we sign out. Come on, come on.
Printed on a ASOS shirt, bro.
A2,
Merch
baby.
coming soon.
A2, A squared.
Signing out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do some of that work. I had stuff on, more noticeably on Bates Motel.
Oh, wow. What'd you do for that?
Did some Eurasian jays. I did some quail. Don't look at the first couple seasons. I didn't do that work at all. So he got really, really good at the end. But yeah, things like that. But generally, when they contact me, prop houses and things, and they want taxidermy work, it takes a long time, and I'm always multitasking. So my work has like a 1 year lead time. Like I'm backed up by a year. So